Why Chinese President Xi's $93 billion personal megacity remains empty.
Villages have been flattened to make way for it. It's been protected from floodwaters that destroyed tens of thousands of homes. And it cost tens of billions of dollars to build. Welcome to Xiongan, the mega project that Chinese leader Xi Jinping has staked his legacy on. Located 60 miles outside Beijing, Xiongan is designed to ease pressure on the overcrowded and congested Chinese capital of more than 20 million people. 7 years ago, all of this was cornfields and swamp. Today, it is a metropolis being built from scratch. With a whopping price tag of $93 billion, it was built as a showcase for China's technological prowess and as a way to show off its urban progress to the world. In less than a decade, thousands of buildings have sprung up, including residential compounds, office complexes, luxury hotels, and
at this point, they can't seriously be talking about ghost cities, right? How many times has China done this at this point over the past decade where they just like build an empty ass city out of nothing because they have centralized planning and it's housing according to need and according to where they want to go? The Wall Street Journal Beijing correspondent also openly admits that this is for the additional needs because Beijing is becoming too overcrowded. They literally build this shit ahead of time and then they fill it. It's so odd that we in the West have no way of comprehending governance of this sort, where they're like, I don't understand. What? Like, what's the profit incentive here? Like, what? Why are they building cities ahead of time? Like, it doesn't make sense. You should actually make sure that there's no planning whatsoever, and it shouldn't even be reactive. There's no proactive housing, but there is not even reactive housing. We shouldn't even build any housing whatsoever. How else are they going to consistently increase the price of housing? How else will the independent homeowners be able to maintain their nest egg? And it's really funny because, like, with the exception of homesteads, okay, in rural areas or whatever, or agrarian farmland, which has a different set of restrictions, China has a similar structure to Singapore, or I'll use a capitalist example, where all housing in China is offered a 70-year lease. So no one truly owns their home. All land is publicly owned. The government decides what to do with that land, which is why eminent domain style structures like this, eminent domain style initiatives like this happen all the time. America also has eminent domain. We just only use it to build the border wall, ironically enough. Instead of the bank owning your home like it does in the United States of America, at least for the 30 years where you're paying your mortgage, and ever-changing property tax, as is the case in the United States of America, that you pay, there is no property tax and the government owns all of the land. You are basically leasing that land from the government or leasing that home from the government for 70 years. At the end of that 70 years, the government offers an extension virtually every single time. Now, that might change. You know, there might be different uses for that land and that the government might not see a reason to continue the land lease agreement. But having said that, that is the way housing works in China. It's a fairly, it's been a fairly successful structure. They're saying my kids won't be owning my $4 billion closet-sized home down the line. What is this nonsense? Yeah.
And one of the symbols of the city, Xiongan train station. This terminus is one of China's biggest, the size of 88 football fields. It can take more than 100,000 passengers a day.
But right now it is just deathly silent. You just don't see a lot of people around. You can hear a couple of cleaning workers, a couple of people off in the distance, some security guards, but other than that, it is pretty quiet here.
Hello.
Despite its official completion date of 2035, parts of the city are already finished.
The scale and the speed of the construction here is really just astonishing. You can just feel being here that no expense has been spared to build this into what they're hoping is going to be a socialist modern metropolis.
Across the city, signs and billboards promote quotes from China's most
powerful
powerful
what are they
leader.
doing? This is like, are they also glazing China? What's happening? virtually all of this reporting doesn't read as like anti-China to me at all. Are they trying to massage this to be anti-China, but it's not working? Or are they just not even trying to say anti-China shit? I'm a little confused. Oh my God, the US aid funding is cut. Chat, this is what happens. This is what happens when US aid funding is cut. Oh no. Once that US aid funding is over, you'll see a totally different side of me, okay? That US aid funding went away. No more anti-China commentary. Only 100 years of Chinese prosperity commentary.
In decades.
Basically what it says is that everyone should persist without giving up.
Yeah, Wall Street Journal, Workers' Socialist Journal.
In using Xi Jinping thought on...
Oh, that's the other thing. Yeah, if the government decides the land where your house is needed for another use, they pay you a large sum of money that is more than the worth of the house, and they will relocate you to an area that is an upgrade from your previous situation. At least that's what I've heard. This fucker can't even read Chinese, but they're using him as the expert on the ground reporter. Wait, what? Yeah, I don't understand. Did he have to use Google Translate for memes, or does he actually not know how to...
up in using. What it says is that everyone should persist without giving up in using Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era to unite our hearts and forge our spirits, something along those lines.
And the success of this multi-billion-dollar endeavor is directly linked to Xi's personal investment in it. So much so that when the deadly floods of 2023 swamped nearby areas, officials demanded Xiongan be protected. As floodwaters were diverted from sparsely populated Xiongan into what the government called designated flood zones, neighboring cities and villages were submerged. Videos on social media showed people taking to the streets in a rare show of public anger, claiming the floods in their areas were caused by diverted waters, not by heavy rainfall. The Communist Party hopes Xiongan will stand alongside successes like the technological hub of Shenzhen in the south of the country, a city which has come to symbolize China's transformation beginning in the 1980s under former leader Deng Xiaoping. But unlike Shenzhen's disorderly and sprawling growth, the new city of Xiongan is meticulously planned, with limits on which companies are welcome here, including the tech and space sectors which are actively encouraged to move into Xiongan. The city also has strict controls on home prices in a bid to fend off speculators. But despite the arrival of state-run companies and institutions, people appear to be less interested in setting up home here. State media boasts that 1.2 million people live here, a figure boosted by incorporating surrounding counties into the city's domain, according to experts in urban planning. But the newly built areas looked eerily empty when we visited.
And now we're in sort of a residential commercial part of Xiongan. This is actually quite a green city. Unlike Beijing, it's lower density. There's a cap on how tall the buildings can be, so there aren't big skyscrapers around, but there's also not a lot of people around. It's very quiet here.
In fact, while local authorities say 120,000 people have moved into these new homes over the past 7 years, many of them aren't newcomers, but locals from the villages flattened to make way for the city.
At least two of the people we spoke to were quite forthright about some of the...
Yeah, I mean, they're still building right behind you, big dog. What do you mean? That's why they haven't moved people in yet, it seems. Like, they haven't... I don't understand what the purpose of this kind of commentary is, when like virtually all of this kind of commentary with like ghost cities and whatnot end up causing people to think like, oh, it's so weird. China's so weird, man. Why the fuck are they building these like random ass cities like with no one living in them? And then people just assume that there are a bunch of these like mega cities that are empty. They only find out that the cities that they were pointing to as ghost cities are popping on TikTok, and then they're like, oh my god, a whole city is cheaper than a single rail line in Britain. In America, we do the opposite. We wait for people to come to a place first, then surprise, we still don't build houses, schools, hospitals, roads, etc. City not... Wall Street Journal, city not complete until 2035. Also Wall Street Journal, why is it empty? Remember when you guys made fun of that metro station in Chongqing, built in an empty swamp field? It's now a fully populated neighborhood with 30,000 people, but I never saw a attraction. Remember when you guys spent a decade calling Pudong a ghost city? What happened? Any follow-ups in Pudong lately? Don't delete this video. We will come here after 5 years to laugh at this video. Oh my God, what is happening? This reporting by Wall Street Journal is amateurish as best at best. Xiongan is meticulously planned because it's meant to divert a lot of government functions out of Beijing to reduce congestion. Imagine sending 1/3 of Washington, D.C.'s government entity to a nearby town. There needs to be a lot of planning. There's nothing utopian about it. Most of the building will be occupied by government entities with specific requirements. That's why they are mostly empty right now, because the government entities have not moved in yet, and its governmental nature has no comparison to the southern economic hub of Shenzhen. Honestly, the whole team that reported on this should be reprimanded. It only shows Wall Street Journal know nothing about China or deliberately looking to manipulate the massage. Y'all forgetting that Pudong in Shanghai was once criticized as a ghost city. Who has ever filled a new city overnight before? It takes years or even decades to fill one up. Build it and they will come. Dude, what is going on?
Inequalities and some of the anger that some of the local residents had here. You had a lot of local villagers who basically had their villages torn down and were given compensation, but compensation that I think in a lot of cases didn't quite meet expectations.
There are some newcomers, but
yeah, I don't understand how there hasn't been a revolution in China yet. State-regulated housing prices? Do the Chinese not yearn for the freedom that is BlackRock? Do they not know the pure ecstasy of seeing a 2-bedroom home cost $2.6 million? This makes no sense to me. I know. As a homeowner myself, I love it, dude. It's great. Stop listening to Chinese propaganda. I'm literally listening to fucking Wall Street Journal. This is the exact opposite. Okay, this guy's memeing. Okay, never mind. What is Wall Street Journal? Yeah, it's the woke Shenzhen Journal. That's what it is.
many of them appear to work for the companies actually building the city, with construction remaining the main source of employment in the area. Experts point out that it took over a decade for the city of Shenzhen to be considered a successful venture. But while Shenzhen grew as China opened to a deluge of Western investment, Xiongan is being built as China faces the headwinds of decoupling from the West, an economic slowdown, and declining population growth. Despite these concerns, authorities project Xiongan's population will reach 5 million people in the coming decades. China experts say that Xi has invested so much of his reputation into Xiongan, he has little choice but to push on with the mega project. But whether this still largely empty construction site evolves into a shining metropolis of the socialist future or a failed vanity project remains to be seen.
I mean, dude, what is the takeaway here? Wow, they're building a mega city, but it's bad. Have you seen American cities, dog? What the fuck? Like, that's you. If you show this to anyone that isn't Reddit brain poisoned, okay, or, working at Langley, virtually every American's going to look at that and be like, can we do this too, please? More of this? Can we do this? This seems like a good idea. I would like this to happen. Give me the opportunity and I will level Sacramento, okay, and rebuild it in the glorious visage of a Chinese socialist, Chinese communist future, okay? You understand me? You'd be like, oh, failed vanity project? No, seems like that's tens of millions of new housing units